Mythical creatures, scary stories, and superstitions. That's what we're talking about on today's episode of Japan Station, the podcast where people come to talk about Japan. My name is Tony Vega. I'm the founder of Japankyo.com, and since 2016, I've been producing Japan-focused content. Tons of stuff over there at Japankyo.com if you're interested in that sort of thing, which I guess you are if you're already here. So today, though, we are talking to a very, very special person. She is the host and creator of the incredibly popular Uncanny Japan podcast, which dives into the spooky and scary side of Japan, yokai and ghost stories and all that sort of stuff. But I think you already know about the show if you're listening to the podcast because, well, the Uncanny Japan podcast is just so popular. So I don't think I have to say much more than that. But Thersa Matsuura it's a really fun and really knowledgeable person when it comes to all this spooky stuff and fantastical stuff, and she just released a new book called The Book of Japanese Folklore. It's available wherever you get your books. You can find a link in the show notes in the description down below, so if you're into that sort of thing, check it out. We're going to be talking all about that and just yokai in general and just some funny stories here and there about all that kind of stuff. But before we get into that, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast if you're over on the audio side. If you're over on YouTube, definitely subscribe to the channel, the Japankyo YouTube channel. Like, comment, drop me a comment. Have you ever seen a yokai? What's your favorite yokai? Let me know in the comments. And by the way, if you want to support what I do, if you like what I do, every little bit helps. And if you can afford to do so, you can go over to the Patreon, patreon.com/Japankyo. Subscribe for as little as $1 a month over on the Patreon, or you can go over to Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/Japankyo, and do a one-time donation. All right. So again, every little bit helps. You know, I'm not really making much money off of this, or well, no, to be honest, I'm not making any money off of this. I'm losing money on this, but I enjoy doing it. So, you know, if I can recoup some of those costs, then hey, I would be very happy. So consider that. But hey, enough self-promotion. Let's get into the spooky stories, the yokai, and all that stuff. Here is my conversation with Thersa Matsuura. So, Thersa, great to have you here.
So lovely to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. So, you know, fellow podcaster, I've been very much aware of you know, your incredible show, Uncanny Japan.
Oh,
And
thank
for
you.
anybody that's not aware, which is probably nobody, yeah, of course, you know, definitely check it out. Been
Oh,
waiting
thank
for an
you.
opportunity to talk to you. And I'm glad, you know, now
This
with
is so
this
nice.
book, you know, we've had a chance to connect. So great with that.
Yes.
Yeah, so of course the book of Japanese folklore, and I do want to get into, you know, some of the specific like stories and creatures and yokai that we talk
Mm.
about, but I
Mm-mm.
wanted to start with like a bigger question
Mm.
first.
Okay.
So why should people be interested in Japanese folklore? Why does it matter? What's so important about it?
I was thinking about that, and there's
Mhm.
actually several reasons, I think.
Yeah.
Very basic would be, I think that we people, everybody, just love story. Like
Mm,
we love to dive into a story that's whatever, an adventure with some kind of character that's wild or crazy or interesting or whatever. And the stories can teach us so much, right? I mean, this is just
mm,
basic story level right here,
mhm,
um, about just what cultural understanding. We can learn how to deal with emotions. We can be inspired. We can be entertained. We can
mhm,
escape. So there's all these reasons just to love story in general. So then you have Japanese culture, and you have the folk tales and the myth and the legends, and these stories that are centuries old, sometimes over 1,000, sometimes over 2,000. They're very, very old, and they've stuck
mm,
around for a reason, I think, because they're quite brilliant. And
mhm,
the yokai and the creatures that, or the mythical heroes that inhabit them, are also very, very captivating.
mhm,
So I think number one, it's just beautiful in and of itself, just as stories, as escape.
mhm,
Um, but also as cultural understanding. I
mhm,
know a lot of listeners I have are either I want to come to Japan, I really want to come to Japan, but I can't for some reason. Too young, no money, whatever. There's some reason that they can't come to Japan, so they can vicariously read
Mm.
stories or whatever games, manga, anime, and kind of use that to like visiting Japan.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
a lot of these people too use that as an impetus to come to Japan. Like okay, that's it. That's my goal. I'm gonna whatever. 5 years from now, I'm gonna go. And I have had people who started listening quite young, and 5 years later, and they're like, yeah, I'm going next year. Thank you. So that's kind of cool. So it's kind of like a initiation, right? Like it gives you a
Mhm.
little bit about the culture that they can learn. I was thinking about when I first came to Japan, because I've been here for quite a while. And I went back home after being here for like 2 years. And I had a relative come up to me, and she's lives in the same town she's born in, next to her parents, which is fine. It's lovely and everything. But she kind of, she just looked down at me and said, well, why would you ever leave your hometown? Why would you ever want to? And I'm like, you have one life. Why would you not leave your life? There's so much to do, right? There's so many
Yeah.
places to go. And so yeah, so just for me, just that was like my initial dive in, right? Was the stories, and then getting here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and in language too. A lot of people I
Mhm.
hear from are studying Japanese, and I've learned that if you want to study a language, find something that you love, like some topic or subject that you love, and study the language through that. So it really helps. It's kind of like double,
Absolutely.
double get.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Right?
No, yeah, you wanna read the stories, you wanna understand the way it was originally written, and so you start to, go sometimes word by word by word by word. You look it up, you really get into it. I've been through that. That can be
Mm.
just such a great way to learn it if you're really passionate about that specific thing.
And that's one reason, with this book too,
Mhm,
one of the things was when they asked me to write it, I was kinda like, "Well, what can I bring that's different than what's already out there?" Because there are
mhm,
quite a few, like, really, really good books out there, and, they're right, fine, so, can I do something different or something
mhm,
my take on it? And one of them was I asked the publisher, I'm like, "Can I add kanji?" Because a lot of the books I read in English about yokai or myth or legends or folklore or whatever are very kind of basic, and they just have the romaji,
mhm,
and the kanji is just so much more nuanced. It's also
mhm,
more intermediate advanced level, and I do get people who email and say, "Hey, thank you for the show notes, right, on the show, because,
mhm,
I wanna visit that temple," and if like koanji, right? Like, there could be a million different kanji for koanji. It could be
mhm,
anywhere in Japan. But when you see it, it just first of all, you know exactly what I'm talking about,
mhm,
but also, yeah, it's a jumping off point, right? You can study from there. So, yeah, so that's also,
mhm, mhm. Definitely. Like, I mean, there's, for example, like many people, including
mhm,
myself, kind of the
mhm,
first gateway into Japan was pop culture, right?
mm.
Video games that then turns into anime, then that goes into history, and then just starts spreading all over the place.
Right.
But like a lot of the stuff that we take in through pop culture is oftentimes directly inspired by many of the things that you cover in the book. I mean, Pokemon is like one of the classic examples. So many
Right,
of those
right.
Pokemon are like directly based on yokai, right?
Mhm, mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
So it's like you're you're absorbing the derivatives without knowing the base, right? Like,
Exactly, exactly, and I found that too, even while doing research for the book, I was
yeah.
like, "Oh, I did not know," like, that yeah, yeah, like how it links down
Mm,
or, vice versa, right? So,
mhm.
that's mind-blowing in and of itself. It's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
out there, and I get a lot of that too, like, I had no idea that I can't think of one off the top of my head that,
Mhm.
uh, yeah, this was this because of this or something,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
it's kind of sort of like solving a mystery. It's kind of exciting too, learning it that
Yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah. I was reading the book, and I'm right now, just I remembered one specific one that you mentioned about the belly button, right?
Oh,
Raijin
yeah.
and the belly button. Like there are, yeah, that, maybe you could give a little bit of details on that, but
Uh-huh.
like my point here is that there's like superstitions and
Mhm.
these stories that you hear when you go to Japan, especially if you go study abroad, or you start working there, you spend a little extra time there, and you're
Mhm.
talking to your friends, or maybe your host mom, and or like your little like host little brother, and he says like, hey, don't do this, like don't whistle at night because snakes are
R
gonna come, right? To
right,
like
right, right,
right?
right.
Like,
Yeah.
and you're like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yes, there are so many that's like so when I came to
Yeah.
Japan, it was 1990, so there's no internet. I have no
Uh,
clue about any of this, but exactly that.
mm,
I got married and I lived with my in-laws for a while, and like I could do nothing right. Like the
mm,
whistling, the cutting my fingernails, the
mm,
just the way I ate food, like everything was like invite. Oh, you're inviting the bad spirits, or yeah, snakes are gonna come, or ghosts are gonna come, or
uh,
when my son was little, I didn't even hear the Laijin one, but the bell. So anyway, Laijin is. One of the gods of the sky. So there's the god, the wind god, and then there's Daijin, which is like thunder and lightning and storms.
mhm,
And Daijin, when it thunders, you have to cover your belly button, or Daijin will swoop down and pluck it out and eat it. Which I did not know this. And
yeah,
my son, he's like, what? He's like a toddler or what? 3, 4, 5 years old, enough to understand, right?
uh-huh,
We're over at grandmother's house and Obachan's house, and there's a storm, and she starts like making a big, oh, you have to, oh, he's gonna pluck out your belly button, eat it. And I'm like, what? Like, I don't even know what this is. Let's slow down. Please explain.
yeah,
So yeah, a lot of them I got that way too. And exactly like you said, if you're in a host family or just hanging out with friends, you're gonna hear stuff and you're gonna be, okay, all right.
yeah.
What does that mean? I
Yeah,
love
yeah,
that.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, and we do that in English too, it's just that for us, it's just obviously, if as a native speaker, you don't think about these things, and the same goes for them, but then
Right,
when
right.
you're the outsider and you take it at face value, and you go like, "Wait, what? Like, where did this come from?" And it's just nice to get the backstory, right?
Yes, yes, and it's very colorful too, like, the Lychee
Mm,
one's so colorful. I
mhm,
remember my mother-in-law, one time she bought an umbrella, and we were in the house, and she opened the umbrella, and I was like, and she's like, "Oh, what, is that bad?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, you're not supposed to open an umbrella." And she's like, "Why?" I'm like, "You know, I don't know, and it's not as interesting as all these, these other
yeah,
ones you're telling me about. So go ahead and open your umbrella, it's okay." But
right,
yeah,
right,
you're
yeah,
right. They're
yeah.
very colorful here for some reason, it feels like.
Yeah, 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 true, like, some of the things that we say is like, "Why? I don't know."
Yeah, yeah,
So
don't put a
I'm
hat on the bed, okay. I
yeah,
mean, there's gotta be a reason, right? But
right,
I
right.
don't think it involves a god of thunder or a god of storms.
Right, right, right. Um, yeah, so it's really, a fun book, a lot of
Yeah.
interesting backstories. You got the pronunciation in there too, so you know how to say
Yeah.
it. And I read through it. I'm wondering, could you give us, I was hoping maybe we could get, like, some 3 examples perhaps
Ooh,
of
okay.
some yokai or some of your favorite stories in the book, something that you'd like to share with us?
Ooh, some of my favorites. I was thinking of, okay, okay, let's
Yeah.
see. I was thinking of okay, so the ones I find kind of interesting, it's so hard to pick a favorite, and it's like
Sure.
my mood changes, right? And you're like, "Oh, and I'm
Yeah,
feeling
yeah,
more
yeah.
Tengu, and now I'm feeling more Hashihime or something."
Yeah.
But one thing I was thinking of is, yokai kind of like how they're viewed now.
Mhm.
So right back in the Edo era, the golden
Mhm.
age of yokai, I always felt that they, or it sounds like from what I've read, they're more a reaction to the environment,
Mhm.
a sickness, or someone disappears, or people start disappearing, and what's causing that? It must be a yokai, or a sound that doesn't make any sense. Or my favorite one that I learned in the book I didn't realize was ball lightning.
Mm.
Never seen it myself, but it's a
Mhm.
thing evidently, and I could imagine, if you are, someone from the Edo era with not a whole lot of science background and you see some ball lightning, like, bounce around in the forest, what could that be? And, of course, it's gonna be a yokai, it's gonna be a Daiju, thunder beast.
Mhm.
So, that was them back then, but then I was thinking, like, now, just living in Japan for as long as I have, they're still prevalent, but in a different way. If you take, for example, the Kappa,
Mhm.
so it's an aquatic beast with the prickly hair and the water on his head and the beak and the tortoiseshell back, and he's usually green and kind of a bad guy, likes to
Mhm.
drown people. But you can go to almost any river in Japan, and there's going to be a sign, and it's going to have a kappa drawn on it, and it's going to say, you know, be careful swimming here, or don't litter, or something like that. You'll
Mhm.
find, there's kappa sushi, there's kappa ramen,
Mhm.
all kinds of mascots. Almost every area has stories attached to it. And this is another thing I really like about Japan, is that it's so old. I'm from
Mhm.
the States, and I kind of grew up all over, but it doesn't feel old. And
Mhm.
here you can go, like I was just in near a river, the Dragon flowing river, and there's all kinds of just local small tales about, oh, here a bunch of Kappa used to come and help the farmers farm when
Mm.
it was really bad. I was like, oh, that's lovely. And then you'll probably find something where they're selling cookies or some kind of amulets or something about Kappa. So they're still like around.
Mhm, mhm,
We have a near my house, near here, there is a man from originally from Hokkaido. He
mhm.
swears up and down that he met a Kappa. And his
Really?
life, he's so cute. He's so adorable. He's older now,
Yeah.
but his life's dream was to build a museum for Kappa. And I
Uh-huh.
think he worked as a
So, wait, for
banker
Kappa to visit or about Kappa?
about
Which
Kappa. But
I sorry.
his, I can, I think I can say with some surety that yeah, he would like a Kappa to visit because he
Oh,
built
yeah,
it
yeah,
near a
apparently, yeah,
river. Yeah,
yeah.
he built it near a river, and it's like looking over the river. And you see him gazing out, and he wants to meet the Kappa again. He's just adorable. Seemed pretty sane and everything, but
Yeah, yeah,
he's got
I
the whole
love
thing.
it.
It's 2 floors, and they're just statues and beautiful images and any kind of kappa you can imagine. And he got the
That's
Guinness
awesome.
Book of World Record for most kappa in a building or
Oh,
something, and he's so
wow!
proud of it. Yeah, it's really, really cute.
Oh, man,
And it's
he's
funny,
the Kappa guy.
he is yeah,
Yeah,
I need to probably do a show on him actually, but
yeah.
he's awesome. He, was really, really weird was my son so my son is like he's like 27 now, but when he
Mhm,
was kindergarten, they had I kind of brought Halloween to that area of my town. It wasn't a big deal there. No one knew what Halloween was, but I said, "Hey, there's this thing called Halloween, and you dress up, and it's kind of fun." And there was a shop owner that was good friends of ours, and he said, "Let's do a Halloween festival." So anyway, they did that. Told my friends, and we had all our kids dressed up as little kappas, and they were dancing on the street. Really cute, and they won. Actually, I think they got like
oh, wow.
$1,000, and we had to divide it up, but it was really cool. So that was awesome. And then, like what, 15 years later, I go to the Kappa Museum and I'm looking around and he has these photo albums and I open them up and I'm like, oh my God, there's my kid and me, like I'm standing on the side, like, whatever, doing something. So yeah, that was kind of weird. That was kind of weird. So yeah, so okay, so that's Kappa, right? So
Yeah,
they're everywhere. They're still everywhere. You can get Kappa bread and all kinds of stuff.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Another one would be,
Uh-huh,
uh, let's do uh, Tanuki. Tanuki would be kind of the same, right?
mhm,
Because Tanuki usually have sake, like a bottle
mhm,
of sake. So you get the shochu bottles, you get anything dealing with sake. So I
mhm.
have a little set with their little cups and everything, but they're all shaped like little tanuki. They're really, really yeah. So it's just the children sing songs about tanuki. They're on TV. Um, there's the statues, which are kind of cool. Shiga Prefecture has a special pottery, and there was a famous potter back in
Mhm,
the late 19th century, I think, or 18th century, and Fujiwara something,
uh-huh,
and he was out one night, and I don't know if he was drinking or not, but he was under the moonlight, he saw a tanuki, and the tanuki comes out, and he starts playing drums on his belly and making a big ruckus, and he's so moved, he's like, "Oh, I have to make a statue, a figurine of a tanuki for good luck because this is such a lucky thing."
mhm,
And he made these shigaraki tanuki, which I think are all over everywhere I've ever been, you see them, and
mm,
not just businesses or whatever, like yeah, business or restaurants will have them, bars will have
mhm,
them, but, like, I have one, like, regular people have them. It's just like a little good luck statue
mhm.
that you put in front of your house,
Right.
and, yeah, and you can have a whole family of them if you want. So, yeah, again, just prevalent everywhere. There's a little tanuki.
Yeah, yeah.
And then a third, which I was thinking about is, a little bit different would be, again, when I first came to Japan, uh, I was I was very young, and I
Mhm,
guess I had a lucid dream, and in my dream, it felt like someone was stepping on me. So I went to my mother-in-law, and there's no foreign friends, there's no internet, I don't know who to
right.
ask, and I just said, "Oh, I had this really weird dream, and it was like someone was stepping on me, and it was very uncomfortable," and she just freaks out, and she's like, "Oh, that's a zashiki warashi." I'm like, "Oh, I don't know what that is," but it's, translated as parlor room child,
Uh-huh.
and they're good luck. Um all over Japan. Mostly you hear about them in the Tohoku, the northeast area, Iwate and stuff.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, they're supposed to be like these ghostly little children, and they come in, they bob haircuts, and when you're sleeping, they'll like do little mischief things, or they'll step on you, or they'll pull your pillow. And when you encounter one, something really good is supposed to happen. You like money, or find a partner, or some kind of good thing.
Mhm.
Uh, those two are just people talk about them like it's no big deal. Like, oh yeah, went to a hotel, had a Zashikiwarashi visit, and
Yeah.
something nice happened. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I guess the original story there is kind of neat too. Is
Mhm.
back it's like 600, 700 years ago, there was a family that was moving from Edo, the Tokyo area, and they were going up north. And on the way, uh, one of the children, the oldest boy, he was 6 at the time, and he passed away. But before he died, he told his family, he goes, "I will protect you forever and ever," or something like that. And they continued on up north, and they found this place where they built an inn. And evidently, he still visits his spirit as his Ashikiwarashi, and brings good luck to whichever room he happens to come into. Some people see him, some things just see footprints or noises or something. And
Right.
that, I'm not sure about now, but it used to be like booked solid for years because people just wanted to go and have the experience
Uh-huh.
of a Sashiki Warashi and having some good luck. Never been there myself, but yeah, it looks pretty
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. Yeah, it's like a ryokan basically, right? I remember seeing
Yeah,
a video
yeah,
on it,
yeah,
somewhere.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's very that was neat too because it was really, really old. It was kinda creepy
Mhm.
looking, like, I don't
Mhm.
wanna go there. It was like and all the dolls, because people would bring dolls, like,
Yeah.
for like, "Oh, if we give you a doll, maybe you'll come visit us." So it's like walls and walls of these old dusty dolls, and then unfortunately, or fortunately, it burned down. No one
Oh.
died. That was
Uh-huh.
good. Everyone
Yeah.
was safe, which they say was the Sashikiwarashi kinda
Right.
saved everybody because in the middle of the night, no alarms or anything, but everyone got out okay.
Mhm.
And they rebuilt,
Mhm.
and when they rebuilt, it looks really nice now. It's a really beautiful place. Doesn't look spooky at all. So
Mhm,
I
mhm.
think that was everyone's like, "That was supposed to happen." Like, that was
Right.
and I guess even though the whole ryokan burned down, there was, like, a tiny shrine next to it, like, should have burned down, but it didn't,
Mm,
and it
mhm.
was, dedicated to the Zashikurashi. So they say, people that still work there, or the
Mhm.
family, the generations later, say that the Zashikurashi, saved everybody and then went into the shrine and just waited for it to be rebuilt, and after it
Mhm.
was rebuilt, went back into the inn. So it's a very nice story
Mhm,
because no
mhm.
one died.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
guess good luck is still happening.
Definitely, yeah, yeah, no, that's good to hear. But, just as you were talking, I was thinking, like, yokai and perhaps some of these other stories too, but yokai especially, they many of them, maybe some of them are like, "Hmm, I don't really get this story." Like, sometimes they go like, "This is really funny, this is really interesting, but I'm not quite
Yeah.
sure what they're trying to tell me here." But many of them seem to be like a way to basically explain the world, like you were saying with, like, for example, the kappa, right? It's like, "Hey,
Right, right.
kids, the river might be kind of dangerous, you might be want kinda careful there." You know?
Right, 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 right. Yeah, it's like someone gets washed away, or yeah,
Yeah.
otherwise strong swimmer drowns, and you're like, well, why did they drown? Well, if they were a strong swimmer, why would they drown? Oh, maybe it was a couple that pulled them down. So yeah, I kind of part of my heart just aches for these old fashioned, these ancient peoples who, you've got kids and they're playing and they run off and something happens and you're like, oh, how do I deal with this? And it's kind of a way to make sense of, oh, maybe a Tengu came,
Mhm.
swept them away.
Yeah.
So nothing really bad happened to, right? So it's kind of a way to just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
deal with things.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I
there are
mean,
some
getting
different ones.
lost in the forest, it unfortunately, it does happen,
This
but
happened.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
There are
this
animals.
is one way to explain it.
Yeah.
Uh,
What's funny with the Tengu though is
uh-huh.
so that's how they that's what the thought is, that's what it's called Tengu Sarai, and the whole
Mhm.
idea was that if someone disappeared, it was like, oh, was it Tengu Sarai? They got swept away, and maybe they'll come back, maybe they won't, probably not. But what happened was some people did come back, like a year later,
Mhm.
they would appear again, and there was different ways. Like sometimes they'd be a little befuddled.
Mhm.
Sometimes they talk about like, oh, I visited faraway places, and they describe places that there's no way they could have been to. So then it's kind of like, well, maybe there's more to this this thing who's sweeping people away. Than one was he said that he went to the moon, but it was actually looking at now what he said, it was like, yeah, that's kind of like what the moon would be like. Well, maybe they knew something we don't know. So stuff like that's really fun too. It's like, huh, okay.
Or like, there's the guy that's like, I'm just gonna go out gambling and stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, the tiger got me. Sorry, wife.
Sorry, honey. And he took all my money. It's terrible. Oh, you
Yeah.
just know that happened. That sounds like a good plot for something.
Absolutely. Oh, that's at least a good short story, if not a
At
whole
least, yeah,
novel.
yeah. You to make that
Oh,
happen, yeah.
yeah.
Oh.
It's so like to me, it's kind of interesting in that many of these creatures, like, well, okay, the one that specifically stands out to me
Mhm.
is the oh my god, I can't remember what it's called right now. It's the snake one, with the that's fat in the middle. Um,
Tsuchinoko?
yeah, Tsuchinoko, arigato. Hi, so thank you. So
Tsuchinoko,
Tsuchinoko.
nice.
Yeah. Like that one, it kind of got more popular more recently, and it got kind of like almost like a cryptid kind
Cryptid,
of,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
like this vibe to it. But generally speaking, it's like in Japan, everything just kind of gets lumped in the yokai like feel. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because it's got like this Edo period thing where everything was being described as yokai, but in the West we didn't really have that. We went through like a
Mm.
different history, and so then it's like, no, these are cryptids like Nessie and all this stuff and Bigfoot. Like whereas in Japan it's like, oh, they're all yokai. Like
Right, right,
it's
right.
interesting. I'm not sure what exactly my point there is, but I just always found that difference and that approach to looking at these like things that maybe might be real, but
Right.
like in Japan they have kind of like this slightly more magical kind of angle to
Mm,
them,
mm,
whereas
mm,
in the
mm.
West the more modern stuff is more like, oh, it might have been just like this ape that never evolved or something like that, right?
Right, right.
Mm,
Yeah, I thought the same thing with the Tsuchinoko too. I'm like, it
mhm,
kind of isn't a yoga, but it's listed as a yoga. I'm like,
mhm,
okay. Or Kuchisake Onna with
mhm. Oh,
the
the urban
mouth,
legends
right?
and that
Right. So
kind of
these are
stuff.
urban legends, but she's also kind of listed as a yoga. I'm like, okay, but like she's kind of new, right? So
Yeah,
it's kind of it's this big
yeah.
bucket.
Right, yeah, like, Hanako, like in the toilet, right?
Mm,
That story.
mm,
That's obviously a more modern story,
mhm,
but
mhm,
yet, like, there was that, drama that was, a bunch of, like, yokai that was, like, maybe, like, 6, 7 years ago, or maybe I think it was
mhm.
during the pandemic, so it was, like, 4 years ago, and it was, like, an oni, and it was, like, I think it was, like, Hanako, and, like, they were all living together in a house. It was, like, a live action drama, and it was called, like, Yokai something, and
Sounds familiar, yeah.
yeah, and but it was like a mix of creatures, well, like some like of these Toshi densetsu, like these urban
Right, right.
legends, and then something that would be more like, yokai-ish.
Ancient or something. Right,
Yeah,
right.
but, they're all yokai.
Just throw them in the same pot, put them in the same,
Yeah.
room, and let's see what happens. Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Shared house, as they call it here.
Yeah, share house. Exactly. It
Is
was
it?
close to like yokai share house or something like that. I think that's what it might have
There's
been called.
another story we have to write.
Yeah.
That
Yeah. So okay, so I know
Mm,
I mean you've already written other books, and you've been working on Uncanny Japan for many years now.
mm.
Like how did the book of Japanese folklore come about? How long did it take you to put this all together?
That's that's the story. So I first and foremost, I'm like,
Mhm,
okay, I'm a short story writer and I want to write novels. That's the whole thing.
mhm,
And then Adams Media got a hold of me and they're like, hey, we want this, we're gonna write this book, or we're gonna have this book. Would you like to pitch it? Would you like to write this? So that's when I had to kind of think. I'm like, okay. What can I bring to this? What can I do? Because I'm not a scholar, I'm not an academic. Really love the subject, study the crap out of it.
mhm.
And so yeah, I mean, the more I thought about it, I'm like, yeah, I really want to write this. And, the deadline, so I was like, "Yes, this is a go," was, 2 months.
Oh wow.
I know, that's what I
Mhm.
said. I said,
Yeah.
"No, that's not possible,
That's yeah, that would be stressful. Whew. Yeah,
That's not happening."
yeah.
But I was able I think this is the most I'm so proud of my brain
Uh,
because I've never in my life, like, I've had a lot of hard things I've had to live through, but mentally, like, to
mhm,
actually sit down and concentrate, like, you wake up at 6 and it was, how did it go? I think I I wrote all morning, had a real quick lunch, didn't even make it. I had my partner, did everything. I couldn't even do that. I couldn't clean, I couldn't do anything, like, wrote all morning, quick lunch, and then I would edit all afternoon until late, and then all night long until I fell asleep would be researching the next chapter. If I
mhm.
woke up at 2 in the morning, editing on the phone, right? So it was just
Wow.
total insanity, but it was great because it was so immersive, and
Yeah.
and I
So you
did make
did
a
do it in
difference.
2 months?
I did. It
Oh
was
my god,
57
wow.
days. I wrote it down. I put it on my
Wow.
I actually counted. I was like, from the moment I started to the last one I handed over. So yeah, it was really, I had it organized first, so I just went through all my books and, like, Post-it noted them, like, "This is I'm gonna do a chapter on here's all the Kappa stuff, and here's all the
Mhm.
Tengu stuff," and,
Right,
um, yeah, everything, "Oh, we have to go to the store? Okay, I'm gonna sit in the car, and I'm gonna read the book and highlight while you go shopping," right? So,
right.
yeah, it's kinda cool. It's kind of interesting.
Wow.
I've never been
So,
able to do that.
I mean, obviously, you already have a deep background in this, and you're familiar with many of the, yokai and stories that you've, put included in the book, but did you come across, like, new stuff that, like, completely new to, like, yokai or, like, a new story that you put in the book?
Yeah, some of the there was new stuff.
Mhm.
Let me think. Oh, off
I
the
mean,
top of my head.
yeah,
Yeah, I just
if it doesn't occur to you, that's okay,
yeah.
but, it's
No, there's a lot of, like, little details too, like,
mhm.
with the ningyo, like, with the mermaids,
Mm.
the different variations of them. And then if you go back, the hakutaku and stuff, like, there's like, this is what it is now, but it used to be this, like, the
Mhm.
baku, and then things just kinda changed, or
Yeah.
how they came from China, what they were while they were still in China, and then they came over to Japan, and then they kinda changed. So stuff like that was, new. I think I had, like, a good about grasp on
Mhm,
these, but to
mhm.
actually go in and, like, dig in and see, from beginning and the evolution and stuff. But then to also try to figure out what I wanted to include in each chapter because they're not super long. I
Mhm.
wanted to write so much more, and a lot got cut because it was just so much good stuff. I was like, "Oh, this is cool. I didn't know this. Oh, I wanna put this in there."
Yeah.
So, so yeah, I kind of I did learn some stuff too. It was kind of
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, like some of these, and these stories often have like multiple versions. Like for even
yes.
like you go into some of like the fairy tale like old like children's stories like Momotaro and Kintaro, and those have like crazy complicated histories, right? Like
That I had
yeah,
to yeah, I had to,
yeah,
like, kinda make peace with, "Okay, I
yeah,
cannot." Like,
yeah,
on the show too, like, I try to say, like, "Okay, now this is one version, and this is where I got it from, but there's Japan's it looks small, but it's actually quite big, and it's got a
mhm,
long history, and there's all different versions." So I couldn't do that, so I really had to, like, stick to my guns and say, "Okay, this is the one I like, or this is the one that's a little weird that, okay, this we're gonna go with this one." And
yeah.
then say, "Yeah, there's a lot of other ones out there, so
Yeah, yeah.
go."
But I mean, that's kinda how it is for the average Japanese person in that they're familiar with a lot of this stuff, but with, like, the general accepted version of it, right?
Right, right,
They
right.
they're not aware of, like, "Oh, actually, in this part of Japan, it's this variation, and in this part of Japan, like, Momotaro actually wears a hat," and this it's like they're
Yeah,
not aware of
yeah,
all the
yeah.
little, like,
Right,
quirky
right.
differences, right?
So true, so true. That's why I like doing it, is I go in and talk to my Japanese friends. Like, "Did you know?"
Yeah.
And
They go,
and
"No."
no, I did not know. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't
I do
know.
that all the time too. It's like, "Did you know
Really,
that?"
really?
Who the hell would know that? Like, only you would know that. It's like, that's
Right,
obvious.
right. Same, same.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Ah, but, yeah, no, it's a really fun book and,
Oh, thank you.
you can what I like is that it's not necessarily just yokai, you also get into, like, the more, like you like the children's tales, there's also, like, the
Mhm.
kinda, like, kabuki kind of story, like
Yeah,
the,
yeah, yeah.
was it Hashizume?
Yes,
I forget. Is that right?
Hashihime, Hashihime.
Hashime,
Mhm.
yeah, so yeah,
Yeah, I
so,
love her.
yeah, so there's a nice variety, and these are all, like, stories that your average Japanese person is at least gonna be aware of in some way.
Mhm,
So,
mhm,
like, it's stuff that you can bring up in conversation or stuff that may come up naturally, and you go like,
mhm.
"Oh, that's the
I
thing I
know
read about."
that. And he does wear a hat over there. That's right.
Exactly. Yeah. So the book is available now? Uh,
Yes, I
okay.
think it's pre-ordered. It comes out, like, in a couple days.
Okay,
I heard
so
a
this will be out
a
May 1st, so
different
by then,
yes.
it should be out, right?
Oh, that's right,
Okay,
yes,
great,
yes.
great, great. Okay, and then just Amazon everywhere, all wherever books
Pretty
are?
much, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
I've looked around and
awesome.
it looks everywhere, yeah.
Awesome, awesome. And then, of course, there's Uncanny Japan, which is, that's super easy to find, just,
So
everywhere, all the podcast places. And then, what's the best place to find you specifically, like social media? Any
social media, so I'm kind of, I try
Mhm,
to do Instagram, Blue
mhm.
Sky,
Okay,
Mastodon, and
gotcha,
Threads.
gotcha. Okay, alright.
Yeah,
So
probably Instagram the most
Instagram, okay, so
these days, and
look up,
Facebook.
Theresa Matsuura, right? Is that
Yeah, yeah.
okay, gotcha. Alright, so check those out, guys, and if you're interested
Thank
in the book, definitely give it a check, The Book of Japanese Folklore by Theresa Matsuura. Uh,
you.
Teresa, thank you so much. It
Thank
was
you
very
so
fun.
much. So nice to be here. Thank you.
Alright, see you next time, guys. Subscribe to the channel.
Bye.